Let's now see how we can debug a Node.js application with VS Code. And this kind of application, a JavaScript Node.js application, is basically the easiest type of application that we can run and debug with VS Code. What I will do is I will first open my main server file that is just a dump server. And let's see how we can debug this. We already saw how to do this in the more general section of our course. Let's see it again for this server. What we need to do is to go to the debug view. And here we have multiple options. We can directly run and debug this, but usually I like to create a launch.json file because I like to have more control and persistence over what I do. So I will create this launch.json file. I will be prompted with an option of the type of application which I want. I will select Node.js. This is the one. And now I have this launch.json file, newly created file. And this is the basic configuration for a Node program. If for some reason this isn't generated for you, you can simply take it from my screen right here. I will also add it as a resource for this lecture. So let's go to the different configurations right here, and maybe I can remove these skip files. We don't need it. The type of this application is Node.js because we are trying to run a Node program. The request is launch. So we will launch the application ourselves. We won't attach to an existing running application. This is basically the difference between launch and attach. We will most of the time use this launch type of request. The name of our program is simply what we will see in the debug view. Let me call this server debug. Like this. You can give it whatever name you like, and this is basically the most important entry, the program that we will run when we will try to debug our server. As you can see, VS Code already made this specification for me. Again, if it didn't do it for you, you can do it yourself. Basically, here we are using the workspace folder, and then we are navigating to our server.js file, and in this workspace we can have multiple entries. Maybe we can also have current file. We can have something like this if we only want to have the file opened and dynamically debug it. But for the moment, let's keep things simple. Let me save this file, and now I will go to our run and debug view. I will now see an entry with this server debug, which is our server debug right here. I will click the green button. Alright, I have a small error. What's the problem? Alright, I found the problem. The problem is with the way I'm doing this import right here, since VS Code is not smart enough to, in the debug view, to know that I'm referring this cool checker. I will make it to refer this coolchecker.js function right here. This is the one from the utils package. But with this approach, it should work. So let's try it again. And yes, our server is working. Right here we can see that it runs. So now if I will do an HTTP request to this URL, let me do it from a browser. You'll see I got a request from right here. If I will put a breakpoint, for example, right here, and try to do the request again, then my breakpoint will be hit, and I will be able to analyze the state of my program in this particular point in time. So my program execution is freeze, and I have all the time in the world to inspect whatever is happening inside my program. I can get all the information about my response and about my request. I even have these debug controls right here on the top right. I can skip the steps. I can step into this function and see what exactly it does. I can skip step over, and now at this point I can see an randomly generated ID. I can simply step out of this function right here, and then the execution of my program will be over. What I can also do inside this debug view is, for example, evaluate different expressions. Maybe I'm not happy with the way I'm seeing my variables right here. I want to see something more complex. And here I have a evaluation console, just as I would have a debug view inside the browser. And what I can do right here is maybe, print the request which I'm receiving. If I will click on this and I will click enter, I will see a print of my request, an evaluation of my request. I can even expand it and see more information about it. I can even select it right here and select evaluate in debug console. And this will do the exact same thing, and it will give me a more meaningful way in which I can get more information about what is happening inside my program at this particular time. As the last point inside this lecture, most of the debug configurations won't be this simple as this debug view right here. And the VS Code documentation knows this. This is the reason we have some cool recipes or some cool resources. If you will search on Google for VS Code debug recipes, the first two results will be a repository from GitHub called VS Code recipes and a documentation from VS Code. And inside these recipes, you will find more information about how you can debug different applications like Mocha tests, like Jest tests, and even more complex applications, even Electron, PHP, and whatever you are currently working on. Let's move on into the next lecture and explore the way we can debug inside a client application directly inside our browser.